Okay. So, why sustainability? Why did you feel that you needed to do something around what's going on in our Earth, on our planet?
Yeah, that's a great question. My simple answer is a heartbreak, and heartbreak can mean a lot of different things. It can mean a romantic heartbreak. It can mean an emotional heartbreak. It can mean a spiritual heartbreak. And what I mean by that is when you see something that just shocks you so much that it makes you question what's normal. So I told you I was a DJ, and there was one night where I wouldn't get home till like 3 a.m. And there was one night where I got home, it was about 3:30 in the morning, and Netflix had just come out. I think maybe I had watched 3 things on Netflix because it was so new. And it was 3:30 in the morning, and I watched this documentary about plastic bags. Okay, so I want you to think about a time when you're walking down the street and you see a plastic bag in the tree, or you see a plastic bag in the river, or stuck on someone's car or something. The fact that we walk down the street and see that and don't question it, that to me becomes a problem. We shouldn't have litter everywhere like that. So I watched this documentary at 3:30 in the morning, and I learned about plastics. I never thought twice about plastics. I used to just go to the store and, buy my bread or buy my milk, and they'd put it in a plastic bag and I would just leave. I never thought twice about, where is this coming from? What's going to happen to it after I throw it away? What is it made out of? And I learned about all that. And what I learned is if you break down just the term single-use plastic, and you just take a step back and think about what that means. A plastic is made out of a material that's what we refer to as non-renewable. It's made out of oil, and oil, you can't just plant more oil. Once you use the oil, it's gone. So we take something that's non-renewable and we use it to make a product that is only going to be used for about 20 minutes. And it's designed to be used once. That's why it's called single-use plastic. And then when we throw it away, that material doesn't naturally break down like a banana peel. It stays in the environment for the next 500 to 700 years. So when you piece those things together, it makes absolute no sense. And it's different from, for example, an aluminum can. Aluminum can be recycled an infinite amount of times and never loses quality.
Okay.
Plastic
so
cannot.
That's why that's a recyclable product, and plastic is not.
Correct.
You can't reuse it. Once it's created, there's nothing else you can do with it.
Yeah, we say that plastic can be recycled. Technically, it's downcycled. So you can't make a new water bottle out of an old water bottle. When you recycle it, it has to turn into something else, like a carpet or something that's like of a lower value. And that only happens about 30% of the time.
Got it.
Maybe less than that. The biggest goal is to not use single-use plastics. And that's what I learned that night at 3:30 in the morning after DJing in the nightclub. And that was my heartbreak. And that's what opened the door for me to question everything, to question, what is the food that I'm eating? What is my educational system like? What about the medicines that I'm taking? How can I give my body exactly what it needs with fruits and vegetables? And how do I take care of myself? And how do I buy things that are less impact on the planet? And that's when all those questions started.
Yeah.
There you go.
So, I'm interested because could you share what happens to that plastic bag that you see in the street, like stuck in the, I'm thinking about when I see plastic bag is like not exactly in the garbage can. It's like on the side, stuck under a wheel or in a windshield. What happens to that plastic bag?
Yeah, it's going to go in one of two places. It's either going to remain in the environment, most likely go into one of our waterways, a river or an ocean. And if you think about it, all rivers eventually lead to the ocean or to a larger body of water, like a big lake. So if the bag in scenario one, the bag stays flying around until it eventually ends up in some water or a gutter
Gutter.
where it clogs the gutters and produces flooding when it rains,
Mhm.
then the city has to pay extra money to go and clean those things. And they end up spending millions of dollars a year cleaning up plastic bag waste.
Mhm.
The second option is if it does get collected, it'll go to a landfill. A big, humongous hole in the ground where we just put all of our waste.
Yes.
And if that landfill is not closed, the bags then have another risk of flying off or
Right.
affecting some animal species. A third situation, which is a lot smaller of a situation, is if those plastic bags are collected at, for example, at your house. If you collect them and you take them, for example, to Whole Foods or a store that has special recycling, they have special programs that can do something with it so that it doesn't end up as a waste.
Oh, I didn't know
That only
that.
happens a small percentage of the time.
Yes, yes. And do you think in the cities, because just the other day I'm in New York City, I know some of our young people are all over the country, but just the other day in New York City, I remember when we were celebrating this, that we banned plastic bags in stores,
Yeah.
right? Still got to do styrofoam, but let's talk about plastic. And it was such a shift in like try to figuring out how do we now, we have a new way of behaving, because we're not just expecting our items to go into a plastic bag, or they were like, oh, you want a bag? So now they ask if you want to purchase a bag, it's 25 cents,
Right.
or you bring your own bag,
Right.
right? So how do we, still talking about what are we doing around this revelation that you discovered? Like, what are you doing?
Well, that is a super important new policy change. It's a super important new rule that will break us out of that normalcy. And I also have to just emphasize that we're all busy and we all have things that we need to do in our lives. So it's not everybody's fault that all this pollution is happening. A lot of us were just kind of born into this system that's already working.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to the grocery store, you just want to get your stuff and go home and cook dinner for your family, or you want to help your mom or anything like that. The fact, though, that there is this ban and they charge you for it, it creates a moment for you to stop and think twice. And that's very important, because without that, it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse.
Yes.
And plastic bag bans are proven to be effective.
Yes.
And they're growing. In the early 90s, there was 0 plastic bag bans or fees anywhere in the country. And now there's more than 250 municipalities, whether it's a city or a county or a whole state, that has had a ban or a fee. And there's that number is just going to keep growing.
Right. When they're saying, do you want a bag with that? And you got to pay 25 cents, that has you stop, right? That has you pause, because that's part of what this whole process is. This curriculum is about learning how to change our behaviors in order to save our planet.
Yeah.
To save what the earth that we walk on.